The song that saved Scorpions and changed everything. What do you do if your lead singer loses his voice right when your band's at the top of the world? In 1981, Scorpions was living their absolute peak, until one day their singer, Klaus Meine, lost his voice. That situation felt like a death sentence, but what nobody saw coming was that out of that darkness would come one of the most powerful and emotional rock songs ever. Stick around, because you're about to hear one of the wildest comeback stories in music history. To get how they even got there, we gotta rewind a bit. Way before packed stadiums, we're heading to Hanover, Germany, mid-60s. The streets were still scarred from the war, but they were also buzzing with young people, rebellion, and this energy that just had to explode through music. In that vibe, a 17-year-old kid named Rudolf Schenker dreamed of making history. He wanted his music to connect people, smash language barriers and borders. His first band was called The Nameless, a name that said it all about the time, kids searching for identity in the chaos. But pretty soon, Rudolf decided they needed a name with more punch, more edge. That's how the Scorpions came to be. It wasn't easy at first. Members came and went, rehearsals were thrown together, instruments were borrowed or patched up over and over. But Rudolf had this vision that kept him locked in. He knew the road would be long, but damn worth it. From 1965 to 1971, Scorpions was a work in progress. They went through lineup after lineup, played tiny bars, cut demos with whatever gear they could scrape together. Still, every song, every practice pulled them closer to what they were meant to become. Before we keep rolling, we want to know you a little better. Where are you watching from? Drop it in the comments. Let's go. One of the first big shifts hit in 1969 when two names joined the crew, Michael Schenker and Klaus Meine. Michael, Rudolf's little brother, was a total prodigy at 15. He already owned the guitar like he was born holding it. His technique was flawless, but beyond that, he had something you can't teach: musical instinct. He could whip up melodies that stuck in your head from the very first listen. Klaus, on the other hand, didn't just have a one-of-a-kind powerhouse voice. His tone was warm, expressive, pure emotion. When he sang, every word felt like it came straight from the heart. The chemistry between the three was instant finally. Scorpions had an identity, but the journey was just getting started. In 1972, they dropped their debut album Lonesome Crow, a dark, experimental record with prog rock and blues vibes. It was nothing like what came later, almost a snapshot of youth, restless, mysterious, full of musical curiosity. Lonesome Crow wasn't a commercial smash, but it kicked off a story that would forever change European music. Scorpions was taking their first solid steps, and the world was starting to hear their roar. The future looked bright, but right when the band was gaining ground, the plot twisted hard. In 1973, Michael Schenker got an offer he couldn't turn down. Join UFO, a British hard rock outfit already killing it on the international scene. Without a second thought, Michael made the tough but smart call. He joined the new band to level up his talent. For Scorpions, it was a gut punch. Michael was the core of the sound they'd built. His exit left a massive hole, and for a hot minute, Rudolf thought about calling it quits. But once again, he got back up. That's when Uli Jon Roth showed up, a guitarist with a totally different style. His playing wasn't as tight or technical as Michael's, but it had this mystical vibe, unlike any other Axeman back then. Roth brought Hendrix influences, psychedelic rock, and classical romance. On paper, the mix looked like a mismatch. Scorpions was straight hard rock, heavy and direct, while Uli was all freeform and trippy. But little by little, the combo started paying off in ways nobody expected. The pieces fell into place, and the band carved out a style that was melodic, hard rock, powerful, and classy. Songs got tighter structures, solos turned more soulful, and Klaus's voice started shining brighter than ever. With this lineup, Scorpions hit a phase of exploration and growth. Their records sounded more mature, more confident, and people outside Germany started chanting their names. Scorpions was on the verge of becoming one of the planet's most beloved bands. Between 1974 and 1976, they put out 3 albums that defined their sound and paved the road to full-on maturity: Fly to the Rainbow, In Trance, and Virgin Killer. These weren't just technical upgrades, they were emotional leaps. You could feel this wild mix of energy, melancholy, and melody, a balance that later became the band's signature. Tracks like Speedy's Coming, Top of the Bill, or Yellow Raven showed the duality fans loved: power and tenderness, strength and beauty. While a lot of bands were trying to go harder, faster, louder, Scorpions went the other way. They wanted to move you. Klaus Meine sang with almost cinematic feeling, Rudolf Schenker laid down rock-solid rhythm guitar that everything stood on, and Uli Jon Roth brought that otherworldly touch, a sound like it came from another planet. Scorpions was flying high, real high. But just when it looked like smooth sailing to the top, another storm rolled in. Hit that like button if you're digging the story. Let's keep it going. In 1977, after dropping Taken by Force, Uli Jon Roth decided to bounce. The news hit like ice water once again. Losing a key member shook the whole project. No fights, no bad blood, just different visions. Still, the band was left without a lead guitarist and without a clear path. But Rudolf did what he does best: reinvent. Scorpions had worked too damn hard to turn back, so he launched a full-on hunt for the next guitarist. For months, they auditioned over 140 players from all over Europe, plenty of talent, but nobody clicked. Until finally, a young guy from Hanover named Matthias Jabs walked in. Matthias didn't just play great, he played with attitude. Clean, modern, powerful style, and most importantly, he got what Scorpions needed: balance. With him on board, the band locked in what a ton of people call the classic lineup. Klaus Meine on vocals, Rudolf Schenker and Matthias Jabs on guitars, Francis Buchholz on bass, Herman Rarebell on drums. Together, they kicked off a golden era that still rings in our ears today. In 1979, they released Love Drive, an absolute game changer. For the first time, their sound had international clarity. Tracks like Love Drive and Holiday showed the band's maturity and knack for blending hard rock muscle with big ballad heart. A year later came Animal Magnetism, with bangers like The Zoo, a tune that captured the band's wild urban side. Then in 1982, they dropped Blackout, with the explosive No One Like You. It was the sound of a band at their absolute prime. International press started calling them Europe's heaviest band of the decade. Years of grind and searching were finally paying off, and it felt like nothing could go wrong. But this ship was about to hit one more wave. During the Blackout sessions, Klaus Meine started feeling something weird in his throat. At first, just a little irritation, then constant pain, and finally, total silence. The medical tests were brutal. Klaus had severe nodules on his vocal cords. Doctors told him to quit singing and for a while, even talking. For a singer, losing your voice is like losing your soul. And Klaus, used to belting rock anthems in stadiums worldwide, went to communicating only with gestures. His days turned quiet, full of uncertainty and fear. It hurt the band just as bad. Tours got canned, recording stopped, every day felt like a sentence. Some suggested finding a replacement, but Rudolf, stubborn as ever, shut it down and dropped a line that's now rock legend. No Klaus, no Scorpions. Klaus went through 2 surgeries followed by a long, painful rehab, months of silence, exercises, doubts. The rest of the guys stuck by him, visited, sent encouragement. They knew this was the toughest moment of their careers. While Klaus fought, Rudolf and Matthias kept writing if he was battling, they'd do their part too. Out of those sessions came a different melody, one that wasn't about fame or glory, but love and grit. A track that, without them knowing, would forever mark the band's history, but we'll get to that. What's your favorite Scorpions song? Drop it in the comments. Months later, against every doctor's prediction, Klaus started getting his voice back bit by bit. First thing everyone noticed, it had changed, but it also gained something new depth. Like a new soul was born from the pain, and now the news was official. Scorpions was back. It was 1983, and the band was prepping their next record, Love at First Sting. Expectations were sky high. Everybody knew this album would make or break them. After all the suffering, they needed a statement to the world that they were still standing, that nothing could take them down. That's when Rudolph remembered an old song he'd written years earlier while Klaus was recovering. He'd shown it to the band and producers back then, but everyone shot it down. Said it was too slow for the sound Scorpions was chasing. But this time, something felt different. Rudolph dusted off the melody, played it in the studio, and when Klaus fully recovered, heard it, something lit up inside him. He sat down with his notebook and the lyrics poured out. A story about second chances, forgiveness, moving forward, even when everything looks lost. Klaus wasn't just writing about a couple trying to patch things up, he was writing about them. About a band that had stared down the end and, against all odds, rose from the ashes. That's how Still Loving You was born. It was a powerhouse ballad, but also deeply human. Every chord carried the scars of their story. When they tracked it, everybody felt it. This was special. More special than anything they'd ever cut. Still, Loving You became the beating heart of Love at First Sting, and without knowing it, a global phenomenon. In 1984, the song started hitting radios in Europe, then the US, then everywhere. It turned into an anthem, one of those tracks that crosses borders, languages, generations. Thousands of couples who were split or drifting came back together, hugged it out, gave it another shot with Still Loving You playing in the background. Heck, in France, they even tracked a noticeable baby boom 9 months after release. That same year, they played one of the biggest festivals ever, Rock in Rio, in front of over 1,500,000 people, nothing less. A number unthinkable for a band that had teetered on the edge of disappearing more than once. On that same album, Love at First Sting, you also got other classics that defined a generation. Rock You Like a Hurricane, Big City Nights, and Bad Boys Running Wild. Scorpions pulled off the impossible, blending hard rock thunder with big ballad heart, winning over the toughest rockers and the softest souls alike. But beyond hits, awards, or sold-out arenas, Still Loving You meant something deeper. It was the turning point that marked the band's emotional and artistic maturity. That growth set them up to create, years later, one of the 20th century's biggest anthems, Wind of Change. A song that soundtracked the Berlin Wall coming down, the end of the Cold War, and new hope for the world, bringing back that slow, reflective vibe. Subscribe to the channel if you want us to tell the story of your favorite band. All told, the band sold over 100 million records. They dropped 19 studio albums, from Lonesome Crow in the 70s to Rock Believer in 2022. Over the decades, their name stayed synonymous with realness, discipline, and straight-up passion for music. They've racked up awards, honors, and tributes worldwide, but their biggest legacy isn't the trophies, it's the feelings they stirred. Today, their story isn't remembered just for the numbers, but for what they stand for, because Scorpions is above all a symbol of resilience, of getting back up when everything looks done, and staying true to yourself, even when the world says you can't go on. Their legacy isn't gold or platinum, it's conviction, friendship, and an authenticity that spans generations. Scorpions proved real legends aren't born from success, but from grit. There's no win without a fall, no song without pain, and sometimes a simple melody can change one life or millions. And that's a wrap on this ride. We'll drop another killer music story right here if you want to keep the nostalgia rolling. Catch you next time.